Welcome to rSlash Am I Wrong, where OP's dad likes to grab his daughter's butt. Our next Reddit post is from Beautiful Advice. Is it bad that I made my dad avoid me because I don't want him slapping my butt? Yo, what? I'm a 17-year-old woman, and I finally spoke up about how I feel about my dad slapping my butt for no reason. When I told him how I feel, he called me cold and bitter just because I don't want to be slapped on my butt. And he says, "Would you rather me slap you behind your head?" I just wanted to say, maybe just don't slap me at all for no reason. But I couldn't because it's hard to stand up to my dad. So when I did, all I did was just say, "I don't like it," and then went to my room. The next hour, we left to head to my grandma's house for a family get-together. I had fun, but my dad was just avoiding everyone, barely talking, and he always talks to his family. When we left to go home, my mom took me into her room and discussed what happened earlier. She wanted to make sure that my dad didn't do anything inappropriate to me based on my actions earlier, but in reality, I just don't like it when he does that. I know he's not a pervert, but can I just say that I don't want him spanking my butt? He's just messing around. Well, there are many ways to mess around. Now my dad won't talk to me. Is it all my fault? Down in the comments, we have this reply from Fresh Kohi. My dad did this. He also grabs my chest. Now, whenever my partner slaps my butt or touches me in a certain way, it gives me flashbacks to my dad. I hate it. Yo, the butt touching's really bad. That's clearly the main problem in this story. But what I can't get over is how the dad is sulking. He's pouting afterwards. So he goes to this party and everyone's like, "Hey, Joe, what's the problem, man? You seem really down." "Well, my 17-year-old daughter won't let me touch her butt anymore, and that just really bums me out." No bum equals I'm bummed, Yo, what a doofus. Am I wrong for leaving my wife? I'm a 29-year-old guy and my wife is 30. We've been together for a while, over 10 years. We were high school sweethearts, prom king and queen, voted most likely to get married, and stayed disgustingly in love. You catch the drift. After college, we went on to get married and have 2 kids. Life was fairly good relationship and family-wise, until about a year and a half ago. I work a good paying job that allows my wife to be a stay-at-home mom. She works out of our home running her own business. However, our youngest had to be hospitalized for a heart condition that requires me to put in constant overtime because the insurance was giving us hell over the bills. My wife had to focus on our kids, so the loss of her income was affecting us as well. About 6 months into our child being in and out of the hospital, I broke down, crying into my wife's lap. I was losing weight, barely eating, barely sleeping because I had to keep food on the table, the lights on, and still pay medical bills. My wife suggested that she sells her eggs. She had seen a video on TikTok about how much you get paid to do so. We were skeptical at first, but we did it. Long story short, we did it twice, and wow, we made about $20,000. Jeez. Our daughter stabilized. I was able to take 2 weeks off to recoup from that traumatic time and get back to being a family unit again. Now, onto why I'm considering leaving my wife. 3 months ago, she came to me that she was pregnant. I was ecstatic. Then, the bomb dropped that it wasn't mine. She went through the process of being impregnated by her best friend's husband's sperm. She thought that I would be fine with that because, in her words, I was fine with her selling her eggs before, so why is this different? Because this time, she's selling her womb and I had no say in it. There was zero discussion, zero indication that this was going to happen. We had been distant during the previous months, having little to no intercourse, but I'm not one to pressure my wife if I know that she's not in the mood. These past 3 months have been draining. I've been sleeping in the guest bedroom. We've basically just been co-parenting. The kids are confused and I don't know what to tell them. She keeps saying that it's not a big deal because in a couple of months the baby will be with its parents and we can move on. But our children are thinking that she's carrying their sibling. How do we explain this? We've been talking to our therapist, but I don't see how we can move forward. In my opinion, this is an act of betrayal. I've been making preparations to file for divorce after the baby is born. Probably in about 3 months so that she isn't blindsided. Our families and friends are split. Her family is making me feel like less than a man because I couldn't provide enough, so she had to resort to something like this. But we've literally gotten past the worst part. There was no need to do this. We were slowly building our savings back up, and she had gone back to her business. Am I wrong for leaving? Alright, there's two separate issues here. The first issue is that she's carrying another man's baby. The second issue is that she did this completely behind your back without any input or conversation and just expects you to be okay with it. In my opinion, I think either one of those is a complete and total deal breaker. If my wife did that to me, I'd be out. Same day calling a lawyer. Now, granted, her body, her choice. If she wants to do it, that's completely up to her. But your marriage, your choice, right? You get to decide if you want to be married to her if she decides to do this. If she does this, then you have a right to decide that you don't want to be in the marriage anymore. Also, I gotta point out, I gotta say, there's a possibility that this story is just a story. Was this an insemination or an insemination? In any event, Opie, I'd be out of there, my friends. Am I wrong for lashing out at this girl for saying that I have ugly privilege? I was talking to this girl who I sat next to during spin class about how hard the class was outside after it ended. For a bit of context, we're both in our early 20s, but she looks like your quintessential tall, tan, pretty blonde, while I'm darker skinned and built like a toadstool, short and stout. We were both in workout clothes, and a guy catcalled her saying how good she looked in her fit walking by with his friends. She scoffed, turned to me and said, "Oh my god, guys are so disgusting. You're so lucky that you have ugly privilege and don't have to worry about things like that." Being floored and very confused, I asked her what she meant, and she clarified that I clearly don't have to worry about things like being catcalled, harassed by men, or being discriminated against in the workplace. She also said that it must be so refreshing to not have to spend hours worrying about how I look around men. Genuinely being at a loss for words, I just said, okay, and told her to have a good day before I went to my car and sat in confusion for 5 minutes. I called my boyfriend and told him about the interaction. After sharing my initial shock, he was confused as to why I didn't have a comeback and told me that I should have stood up for myself. I'm normally a very passive person, and she genuinely didn't seem to get how insulting it sounded. But now I'm wondering if I should have lashed out. Yo, this woman, some random person says something to her that she doesn't like, and her immediate response is to say, "Wow, that's so awful," and then does the exact same thing to you. What a hypocrite, man. I don't even know why you wrote this post. Obviously, she's a major jerk, OP. She's in the wrong, and you should have clapped back. Our next Reddit post is from Throwaway Ato. I'm a 37-year-old woman, and I've been married to my husband, Joshua, who's 38, for 15 years. We also have a daughter, Dia, who's 19, and her best friend is a girl named Aaliyah, who's also 19. We're also very close to Aaliyah's parents. Some relevant context is that I'm Indian, and Aaliyah's parents are also Indian, but Joshua is white. Aaliyah's dad sent me screenshots of deeply inappropriate text messages that were sent from Joshua to Aaliyah. My husband was coming on to Aaliyah and venting to her. She kept telling him to cut it out and that she wasn't interested. She threatened to tell me what he was doing unless he stopped texting her, and he did stop texting her. In those text messages, my husband said some truly disgusting things about both Dia and I's skin color. Joshua said that he wished both me and our daughter were light-skinned like Aaliyah, so we weren't such embarrassments to bring around his family and coworkers. Joshua even went so far as to say that he wished that he could divorce me and marry someone like Aaliyah to try again at a blended family. Aaliyah's dad said that he wanted to kill my husband, but he would wait for me to confront him before doing anything. I was disgusted and horrified at what those texts said, but I held out the tiniest amount of hope that maybe they were fake, so I waited for Joshua to get home. He didn't even bother to deny it when I showed the text to him, and just begged me to forgive him. He said that it was a stressful time in his life, he didn't know what he was doing, and he hasn't tried anything with Aaliyah or anyone else since. I just told him to get out of my sight, and I didn't want to see him for the time being. My husband seemed disappointed, but packed a bag before leaving for my mother-in-law's house. That was 2 days ago, and I haven't spoken to anyone except my daughter and mother-in-law. I haven't told Dia what happened, and instead just told her that Joshua and I had a fight, so her dad is staying elsewhere for a while. Joshua hasn't tried to contact me except for asking me when he could come back, which I didn't respond to. My mother-in-law is begging me to accept my husband back so that we can talk about it and move past it. She said that I shouldn't throw away 15 years of marriage over a few texts. Funny. That's kind of a funny thing to say considering the husband threw away 15 years of marriage for a 19-year-old girl. I don't know what to do. I'm still having trouble facing that my husband would do something like this, and my mother-in-law is making me feel guilty for kicking him out. OP, there's no coming back from this, because not only is this a fundamental betrayal to you, he also betrayed his own daughter by shaming her skin tone. I don't understand racists, man. If you don't like Indians, why marry an Indian? Why are people like this? How can you be so dumb? Our next Reddit post is from Guilty Schedule. Am I wrong for not giving my sister my baby? I'm aware how insane this title is, but hear me out. I'm a 48-year-old woman. My husband Lucas is 39. My younger half-sister on my dad's side, Leah, is 24. My husband and I met through work 5 years ago, but didn't date right away. We tied the knot by eloping 2 years ago because I predicted Leah would cause wedding drama. Leah herself had a failed engagement 1 year ago. We gave her our condolences, but she said if I really cared, I would stop wearing my engagement ring around her, flaunting it. I obviously didn't take it off. It's a vintage ring that's an heirloom in Lucas's family. I'm now 5 months pregnant with a baby girl. The baby wasn't planned, but she's a very welcome surprise. Lucas is so excited to be a girl dad that it's funny. Ever since I announced my pregnancy, it wasn't a fancy thing, just over dinner. Leah's been very snippy and standoffish with me. Fine, it doesn't really affect me. We're not close. But then I noticed that whenever we would go to visit my dad or we were at family gatherings, she was very touchy with Lucas. She would giggle at every joke he makes. Didn't really bother me. I'm secure in my marriage, and if anything, it just makes her look silly. We had a blended family event with family from my side and Lucas's side, and we were discussing baby names. Leah freaked out, screeching at me that she's the one who deserves a husband and a baby, not me. She said that I never wanted marriage or kids. I was focused on getting a career. Then she stormed off. Later on, my dad and his wife said that Leah shouldn't have shouted, but I was flaunting my marriage and pregnancy when I know that she had a failed engagement and had always wanted a baby. I thought that was it, but yesterday the three of them asked to talk and they came over to our place. And they legitimately asked if I would give Leah my baby. Like, they weren't joking, they said it seriously. They said that Leah deserved the baby more than me because she wouldn't neglect being a mother for a career. Lucas was stunned, but then promptly got them out of our house. I heard Leah clinging to Lucas's arm, telling him that she would be a good stay-at-home mom. My mom and her side of the family are furious. Leah's mom said that it was malicious of me to tell my mom's family and that I'd really upset Leah when we eloped, so I had to I had to make it up to her and that my mom doesn't get a say. What the hell? Yo, you have to make it up to her by giving you a baby? What is this? Ancient Egypt with Moses? You must give your firstborn son. You must surrender your firstborn child. These people are straight bonkers. I don't even know why you posted this. Just cut them out of your life, install security cameras, and move on, OP. Am I wrong for refusing to pay for my baby niece's hearing aids, even though I have a ton of money? My 3-month-old niece was recently diagnosed with congenital hearing loss and is partially deaf in both ears. The doctor suggested that she be given hearing aids as soon as possible so as to not affect her development. However, my sister-in-law, Kate, can't afford the $1,000 to $4,000 per pair expense, especially without health insurance. So she decided to ask my wife, who hates her by the way, during their grandmother's funeral. For context, my wife hates her sister with a burning passion because of how Kate treated her. Ironically, my wife was born partially deaf in her left ear. But instead of Kate being a supportive sister, she bullied her instead. What makes it more sickening is how their parents turned a blind eye because Kate was their favorite child. They allowed Kate to shout ugly remarks about deaf people into her sister's ear and more. They even ignored their youngest daughter's need for a hearing aid, as they didn't want to waste money. Eventually, my wife's grandmother chipped in and bought a pair. But even then, Kate would constantly steal the hearing aid and torment her sister. The last straw was when Kate intentionally broke it and her parents refused to replace it. Once again, they refused to waste money on their youngest child's needs. My wife eventually moved in with her grandmother and went no contact. And thankfully, she got a new hearing aid. Skipping to the funeral, Kate sat down, uninvited, next to us to speak to us. She wanted to ask an important favor in the name of family. We already knew about her daughter's condition, so she just plainly asked us to cover the medical expenses. She mentioned that we could easily afford it. I guess she was expecting a yes, because she was shocked when my wife said no and told her to F off. When Katie asked why, my wife just went ballistic. She called Kate out on her audacity to attend a funeral to ask for money, for wanting the person you bullied for being deaf to buy hearing aids for your deaf daughter. She even quoted Katie's old insults. "Deaf people are stupid, you dumb left deaf ear." After she let it all out, Kate was speechless. Kate didn't even try to act apologetic and just started shouting. She called my wife psycho for holding so much resentment towards her still today. She called her selfish for refusing to help her niece over a childish grudge. She even gaslit my wife for the next 5 minutes straight to make her believe that she's immoral. She eventually left screaming after calling us disgusting for having so much money and not helping family. I don't understand why I should spend my hard-earned money on someone else's child. So, am I wrong or not? Beneath that, we have this comment from Adventurous Age. When your sister-in-law asked for the money at the funeral, your wife should have said, "Sorry, I can't hear you." Yeah, you could say that request fell on deaf ears. That was rSlash and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.